double. Will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be four-story cheat now that Pastor Lover has respawned, and he is still vulnerable here. I think trying to stick him. This is the horse's decay.
This is on delay as well. It's like they knew. Brandhold's taking up Cloudy. They're gonna lots of.
Double. Will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be four-story cheat now that Pastor Lover has respawned, and he is still vulnerable here. I think trying to stick him. This is the horse's decay.
This is on delay as well. It's like they knew. Brandhold's taking up Cloudy. They're gonna lots of. Double. Will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be four-story cheat now that Pastor Lover has respawned, and he is still vulnerable here. I think trying to stick him. This is the horse's decay. This is on delay as well. It's like they knew. Brandhold's taking up Cloudy. They're gonna lots of. double victory for will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be forced to retreat now that the Pasta Lover has respawned, and he is still is vulnerable here. I think trying to stick.
This is
The horse is decayed.
This is on delay as well. This is like they knew. Brandhold's taking up Cloudy. They're gonna lots of.
A double will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be forced to retreat now that the Pasta Lover has respawned, and he is still is vulnerable here. I think trying to stick.
This is
The horse is decayed.
This is on delay as well. This is like they knew. Brandhold's taking up Cloudy. They're gonna lots of.
Oh, slight audio trip up there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to twitch.tv/Hive Esports Games for week 7, the first round of the semi-finals here in the Hive Esports League of Legends series, our weekly Aram Mayhem 2v2 tournament. We've started the semi-finals, and as you can see on your left-hand side, that is the final results from the league phase. Seal9 took the league phase victory, and thus are automatically through to the semi-finals alongside Yowie Addicts recovering, Grompies and Nat and Joe, with Team Ultimus and Sveti Destiny unfortunately eliminated. There's the bracket on the left-hand side of your screen, and game 1 is what we've got on the cast today. It's Seal9 who won the league phase against Nat and Joe, who scraped in 4th place. So it'll be 2nd and 3rd facing each other on the other side of the bracket. Next week, we've got a bit of a change-up, though. In the commentary boxes alongside me is Lewis. Unfortunately, my regular co-commentator is a little bit sick, but he's behind the screen doing the business as per usual, never taking a day off. So, Lewis, how are we feeling heading into the semi-finals?
I mean, Seal9's performance throughout the whole tournament has been exceptional. I think they've only dropped maybe one map.
I think so.
One map the whole time. Compared to Nat and Joe, they have shown really good capability in some of their games, but in other games they can start to fall behind, and I feel like if they don't get their preferred champions, they are very likely to lose.
Potentially, yeah. Seal9, I think that's what we've sort of focused on, is their consistency and especially how good they are in combat. That's sort of where they get a leg up on everybody else. That's why they've managed to get 8 points out of a possible 12, which is, of course, the highest anyone has managed, alongside Yowie Addicts as well. Nat and Joe just on 4, so I think they're the sort of team, if they can't start on the front foot, they find it hard to then get themselves into the game later on. So if Seal9 can start off strong, that could be a potential opening. But just before we jump in, we're going to take a deeper dive into exactly who's going to be on the battlefield today. We're going to quickly throw up some player cards and meet the teams that will be facing each other tonight. Firstly is Nat and Joe. They finished 4th in the league phase there. They started off not too hot with 2 losses and 1 draw, but a critical win against the Yowie Addicts in Game 4 was all that was needed to get into the playoffs. As you see, Nico and Silas, the preferred champions for Hive Esports champion Newt Silver, as well as Slim KZ. Mainly a fun-oriented playstyle and considered by our professional board of opinion the most whimsical team in the league.
Definitely the most whimsical team. They just have that playstyle about them. They like having fun. They come here for some fun. But one thing to point out in the history section is they've already played Seal9, as everyone's played each other, already losing 2-0 as we head into the first game here. Oh, or not.
Almost.
We almost headed into the game.
Almost did. Got kind of teased there a bit. We are not far out, though, definitely. There is, of course, one more team we still have to meet. That is, of course, Seal9, who did win the league phase. That is made up of Steph and Cloudy as well, who have been exceptionally strong, as we mentioned, in combat as well. They don't tend to score highly on the whimsy score, as it were, sort of our unofficial ranking there. But we'll see how well that carries them through as we are soon to jump into the first game of match number 1 here. The semi-finals are kicking off. It's going to be Nat and Joe, Newt Silver and Slim KZ in the blue, with Seal9, Cloudy and Steph in the red. And immediately, champions are going to be the most important thing at the moment. What are we seeing on the field, Lewis?
So we are seeing a Lux and an Olaf for the side of Seal9, and we're seeing a Warwick and a Master Yi on the side of Nat and Joe. Master Yi being a very good Aram Mayhem champion. If you can get the right augments for him, he basically becomes unkillable. His Q makes him untargetable, and he slices attacks through the different players. And if there is a augment, I believe it's called Mystic Punch, where you apply on-hit effects, and that reduces Master Yi's cooldown. So if you are get that augment, you get multiple on-hit effects, reducing his cooldown quite a lot, so he can basically Q and Q and Q and Q again in the later stages of the game.
Definitely. So he's going to be one that's definitely going to be very, very hard to take down, which, of course, in a 2v2 team fight can be crucial here. As still, the fighting does now rage on. 90 seconds into the game. Newt Silver taken down to half there. Steph and Cloudy still nearly full HP. Newt Silver, though, does get some heals off. But now channeling here. Nothing going just yet, really, for either of these two teams right now. Nearly 2 minutes into the game. It's a very, very slow start thus far.
Yeah, definitely. Olaf is a very strong champion early. So is Warwick, actually, as he can just chunk health and regenerate through his Omnivamp. As we see first blood for Olaf there, with the help of the chain CC from the Lux on Cloudy.
Yeah, some big CC there, sort of focus there on Slim Casey there. Steph, as Olaf does get the first pick. It's 1-0 to Seal9, so immediately they are showing their hand, with their combat skills there. Doubling up on that crowd control to eliminate any threat from Slim Casey. Of course, that does put Steph somewhat on the back foot in this fight, down to half already. Newt Silver, though, does get taken down there. Steph with a massive pick on Newt Silver, despite initially being quite low in health there, and a double kill will make it 3-0 to Seal9 there. I think that CC immune being huge there for Steph, unable to be sort of taken out there by any CC, and they will now self-execute on the turrets so that they won't get... actually shut down there by Slim Casey as Master Yi just about gets credited for the pick there. But of course, everyone now has gone down at least once. They'll be able to purchase the augments that they would like. And of course, another crucial part of Aram Mayhem is the augments you're given and how you use them. But right now, Seal9 taking the early advantage.
Yeah, definitely, especially with the CC immunity that Olaf possesses. Warwick can't ground him down, which is his ultimate. Basically holds him in a certain place and attacks furiously. That's the description of the ult. But if Nat, I believe it's Newt Silver on the Warwick, decides to target him, it's just never going to work out because he can just break out of that.
So definitely, I think a bit of champ diff, I think, is sort of the term we tend to use. Obviously, Aram Mayhem, you're given a very small pool of champions to pick from. It is randomly generated, so there is that element of chance in there. Seal9, though, definitely making the most of it. Master Yi and Warwick, I don't think particularly popular picks amongst the Nat and Joe camp, but they're doing their best at the moment, and 3-1 isn't a particularly insurmountable scoreline at the moment. Slim Casey, though, down to half as Cloudy and Steph beginning to focus. Now CC'd, but Slim Casey does manage to dive out, but not for long. 4-1 now, and now CC immune for Steph there is going to get the pick on Newt Silver. Just an immediate onslaught there. Now tear through the minion rush to try and get towards that first turret and start to make an indent in red or blue, pardon me, blue territory there. As you see that turret now down to half. Slim Casey, though, does jump in. Immediate CC, though. Newt Silver nowhere to be seen at the moment, only just respawning now, but does put pay to that advance. So another one team fight for red team, but unable to do much with it.
Yeah, it's the CC from the Lux that is really helping them here. With the element of this map being that you go into the cannon to get to the lane, it's very predictable of where you're coming out because it displays it. So you can just aim your Q, get the CC instantly, get a bit of damage off. However, Master Yi doesn't really get affected by this because of his W. It heals him. So he can just regenerate that chip damage that is given to him as he dives under the tower to try and kill Steph. But Steph going in now on Newt Silver after Cloudy. Oh.
Does just about get it done there.
Yeah.
Quite a weird team fight. They were hacking at each other. Not a lot of damage was being done there, but it's another ace there for red team, and surely now they will take out that first turret. Slim Casey will jump back in, but not quite in enough time there, and it's immediate 2v1. Newt Silver hasn't respawned yet, so potentially if that Lux gets another CC off, this could be another pick for red team, and Steph on a rampage, as the game says there. 8-1 now on the kill score, although Newt Silver might get the pick on Steph here unless Cloudy is there to support, and he is. More CC now. Steph unkillable right now, just hanging in there on a slither of health, and it's now 9-1 to Seal9. Newt Silver and Slim Casey here almost powerless to do anything here, as they will self-execute. No, never mind. Steph again gets shut down by Warwick there, so it's now 9-2 and now 9-3. So blue team will get that ace and potentially start advancing and counter-attacking into red territory there. But I think right now Nat and Joe are struggling to deal with this onslaught of damage and CC that red team have got right now.
Yeah, it does look like that. The Lux CC is definitely a very key factor into this game already, you can tell, because they can't team fight together. They can just isolate one after another and just chip damage away. It seems like there's fear from Warwick.
Yeah, Warwick having to retreat there. Newt Silver not really in any position to challenge Steph at the minute. Cloudy just sitting in spawn at the minute, making some purchases in the augment store perhaps. There you go, Oblivion Orb, the augment of choice for Cloudy there, as Lux now will jump into the fray, and we'll make a 2v1 very briefly here. Slim Casey now jumping in to the cannon to come back into play. But 9-3 is the score on the kill board. To Seal9 again showing their abilities in combat here. Really duetting well as a unit, even though it is largely, I would say, down to luck in terms of the champs you get and how they synergize. Definitely, they're making the most of it and exploiting the weaknesses.
As Master Yi goes in on the Lux there, chasing her down. As he gets the Lux, Gets the Q off on the Olaf. Will he dive again? Doesn't dive under tower this time. He's overtaking the tower damage.
It's a big pick, though, to just relieve the pressure a little bit to take down Lux. Of course, a major CC threat on the side of Seal9. Steph will be able to heal up just a little bit. And as the protection, of course, of it not being the wisest move to dive under an enemy tower. So 9-4 still, but blue team have something of a mountain to climb. They are yet to make much of a dent in red territories. Cloudy now does jump back in. So blue team getting a crucial pick on that Lux, of course, but unable to do much with it. Now have to retreat again. So, yeah, I don't know if this competition is simply built for Aram Mayhem. They're doing the best they can, but I don't know if I think the cards are really stacked against them here.
I definitely think that for the early game, 100%. But as you build up on those champions, they can become very strong. Whereas red team's champs kind of pivot off a little bit more. The constant attack speed granted by Master Yi, especially in this game mode if you get the right augments. You could see the difference already from not being able to kill Cloudy the first time he engaged to being able to almost one-tap Cloudy in that second fight. As Joe almost sits back in that fight, doesn't really engage.
Yeah, it doesn't engage much. Newt Silver, I think, almost fed to the wolves there. Does get CC'd there, as does Slim Casey. So now 10-4 here to Seal 9 and potentially another team fight win, although Charmed now is Steph unable to do much. Cloudy is there into support to just give Steph that tank ability and that sustain in the fight there. And it is 11-4. Another ace there for Steph as Olaf here. 9 kills on the board just from Steph himself there, and does get the heals. Won't make too much of a dent into blue territory now. So have to work through the minions, and both Newt Silver and Slim Casey have respawned. But that is just another big team fight win for Seal 9. And right now, Slim Casey isn't there in support. Newt Silver is getting picked off a little bit here, down to 80% roughly. But Seal 9 retreating for the moment.
Yeah, it didn't look it was the smartest play to dive the tower there. They could have definitely with Olaf's shield and tankiness, but I just think with the fact that Slim Casey was coming back momentarily, it was just a irresponsible move, we should say, to try and go for that kill when you're so far ahead with such a great gold bounty on you.
Yeah, exactly. They've got, say, 2,000 extra gold. They've taken out the first tower, of course, and they're in a comfortable position with regards to being able to win team fights. Of course, as you say, we think blue team's champs will scale up a little bit more relative to Seal 9. That will balance things out somewhat, but for now, Seal 9 just looking to capitalize on the position that they're in. They're very comfortable, taking advantage of the, I think, champ diff that they do have in their favor right now. But as we enter the 12-minute mark here, things somewhat plateauing. Tower's not really being taken down. It's still only 1-0 to Seal 9. In that regard now, being 2-on-1 here is Steph, is immune to CC, but now Cloudy being targeted by Warwick there. We'll see if Steph can get the pick, and does. That's his 10th kill of the game here. Newt Silver may well get the pick on Olaf, but it's now a 2v1 here. Can Steph get the sustain? He can, and it's another team wipe for Steph here on an absolute tear, and it is now another clean sweep for red team here, 13-4, and they will soon start to press into blue territory with a big wad of health as well. And they're just going to run in and self-execute because they want some new augments.
Yeah, definitely. With the sustain from Olaf and the W from Cloudy is really helping to stay alive in the team fights. As Marcy does get the shutdown, which does grant him a lot of gold, but it would be stupid to self-execute right now in the state that they're in. They need to get this first turret here, which looks like they might be doing fast pushing this wave here.
Definitely looks to be that way. I've got about 15 seconds before either Cloudy or Steph are on the battlefield, and they now will pressure this first turret, and it will go down very, very quickly. So that evens the playing field massively. And in fact, they will target the second tower as well, which does have a bit more health. As you see, it's not going down quite so quickly. Cloudy does respawn, And the turret does take down Slim KZ. We'll see if Nutsilver can take it down. There are a lot of minions in support as well. This may well change the complexion of the game a lot here. Nutsilver rooted, but does get the turret taken down just in time. And that swings the balance massively. Now Nat and Joe lead this game 2 turrets to 1, despite what the kill score does say. They now lead this game here. But of course, now is a big counter-attacking opportunity for Seal9.
Yeah, it was really lucky actually for Slim Kazi because the Lux did ult to try and get that shutdown, but it's seconds away from actually getting it there. As Marcy does come back into the field here.
Does get
CC'd
immediately,
instantly,
yeah.
but the ult is popped. Targeting Cloudy now.
This could be a big pick. Does get it as well.
Recast the Q.
And we'll see if they can win this team fight. Nutsilver as Warwick here. CC immune though is Steph, and just the damage output. Olaf, such a tanky champion. It's going to go down to the wire between these two, and it will just about go the way of Nutsilver. A huge team wipe there, and this could be where the balance of this game now begins to swing, as Nutsilver now fully healed up, does not have Slim Casey in support for another 12 seconds here. Cloudy will respawn before then, but will now start to do some damage to Seal9's inhibitor. Cloudy does now respawn. There are minions coming in now as well, but already down to half on the inhibitor. Now a third. Cloudy does come in looking for a shutdown, which will, of course, grant a lot of rewards, but Nutsilver getting that inhibitor down and does take it. So that is a huge, huge moment in this game for Nat and Joe to try and take it to Seal9. Seal9 have been winning all the team fights and originally took the lead, but now 2 towers and an inhibitor taken down for Nat and Joe. The balance of this game is swinging quite wildly towards the blue side.
Yeah, definitely. The Omnivamp that Warwick has, you can see, already up to full HP, basically. That's what the sustain is in the fight with Olaf as well. Being able to just chunk at his HP and keep healing, it's really helping. But Olaf does have ult, so he will be CC immune if they do try and dive in. As Slim Kazi does get the snowball on Cloudy, chasing, going back into the cannon to get away.
That is a very, very impressive move there from Slim Kazi. And now 2 against 1 is never going to work for Steph here. Now 15-9 here, and they're going to try and take up that first turret. Slim Kazi may well fall here to that turret, maybe in just a sweet spot to not be seen by it. Nutsilver and Slim Casey both on very low health, but they're going to take out both turrets and they're going to start targeting the Nexus. They're going to win this game despite losing by 6 kills. A huge win there for Slim Casey and Nutsilver. They take the lead in the series in semi-final 1, and that is a massive statement there from Nat and Joe.
Definitely. It's very surprising after, at one point, what was it, 1-9?
Something like that, I think, yeah. It was a huge, huge performance. Even then, it ended 15-9 to Seal9. But of course, the only thing that matters is taking down that final Nexus, and that is exactly what Nat and Joe set out to do, as you mentioned, Lewis. That scale up of the blue team champions, that was eventually, I think, the difference maker for them. And Seal9, I think, are going to go back to the drawing board a little bit. I think they would have been taken aback somewhat by seeing what they've seen today. Nat and Joe 1-0 up.
Yeah, definitely. It's very good to see after losing 2-0 in the group stages. Nat and Joe pulling themselves together, even though they were all the way down, they managed to claw back up. Definitely the fact that Master Yi does become invulnerable when he is in his Q form, it was allowed them to just engage and actually tear down the Lux. So it was just a 2v1 every time, basically, because of how squishy she was.
Definitely, and I think that's proving something about Nat and Joe as well. They're able to immediately, they get put on the back foot and they would sort of resign themselves to that fate for the rest of the game. That's what we saw sort of at the start of the group stage. But now this is a different team now. They're way more as a unit, and they're able to come back from, as you say, 9-1 down at one point. And even still, they lost on the kill score, but all that mattered was getting that Nexus. That's exactly what they did. So they now take a 1-0 lead in the series, and I do wonder if we have quickly the time before the second match of this best of 3, if we have time to talk quickly about Seal9 more in depth as they look to claw back the lead here, or a point here in this final semi-final before they get to the grand final. Of course, Seal9 were almost assuming for the final, some would think. They won the league phase and, you know, they looked so strong, and they find themselves now on the back foot.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they didn't get either of their favorite champions, as it's Steph and Cloudy's favorite champions are Kane and Hui, and they have a very aggressive playstyle, as we have just seen in that game. They are very good at team fighting. You could see the coordination between them is definitely, I believe, better than Nat and Joe's, but they are not as whimsy. And I think that's why they, Nat and Joe won that game. Just they were more whimsy. You saw Nat dancing in the middle of the battlefield at one point.
I think that was the difference maker. The whimsy, it's become the moniker of Hive somewhat, as myself and George have discussed on the broadcast many times. The whimsy that a team has, how whimsical they happen to be, seems to be the difference maker sometimes. And Nat and Joe originally were struggling early in the series. They went up until game 4 before they got a win. Meanwhile, Seal9 actually undefeated in the league phase. That streak may well be ending right about now, though. So we'll have to wait and see if they can claw anything back. But now Newt Silver and Slim Casey in the hot seat to book their ticket to the final. Of course, that is a chance for Newt Silver herself to become a 2-time champion in Hive Esports, which would be totally unheard of. But we'll be switching now to match 2 of this semi-final here between Nat and Joe and Seal9. It's Seal9 with it all to do here in this second map as they try to level the playing field. It's 1-0 to Nat and Joe. We'll be jumping in just a few seconds. Lewis, do you think they can take this back?
I believe that there's a great possibility that Steph and Cloudy can take this to a third game. Steph, as you saw in there, is the highest ranked player in the whole tournament. I believe peaking Emerald, which is pretty high in league terms, definitely. But it's all to play for, really. Aram Mayhem is mayhem at the end of the day. It's so random. You could get the champions you need or want or anything, or you could just not. Same with augments, same with like everything. It's completely random, so there is very high possibility that either team could take it today. I have my money on Nat and Joe winning this one, taking the best of 3 and ending it in the second game. But what do you think?
I think it'd be almost a fool to sort of bet against Seal9 originally coming into it, but Seal9 have never found themselves in this sort of position before. Throughout the league phase, they would be taking it to their opponents. We'll find out here in match 2 whether they can do that. I'm not sure if Seal9 can take this, only because they've never been in this sort of losing position before. They've always put themselves on the front foot, and now they've been backed into a corner by what some would potentially consider an unlikely candidate in Nat and Joe. They almost stumbled into the league phase. 4th place, they weren't safe until that final week. But they've come in full of confidence, full of coordination, and despite being on the back foot early on, where capitulation was almost their weakness at one point, they've now completely flipped that on its head. This could be their game to lose, potentially.
Definitely. And looking at champions, we have Caitlyn and Akshan on the side of Nat and Joe, and Varus and Ornn on the side of Seal9 here, with Varus doing a lot of damage. He does max % health damage, which can be very crucial in a normal game, but in this game particularly, the champions he's going against are very squishy, so they won't take as much damage from that passive.
So that could potentially be the difference maker here. Damage output potentially the silver bullet here to decide these teams' fates here as they look to book a ticket to the semi-final. This is match point for Nat and Joe. If they win this, they are through to the final, and it will be Newt Silver looking to become a 2-time Hive Esports champion. But of course, they still have to get through some very formidable opponents in Seal9, both of whom looking for their first titles in Hive Esports, looking to make it on the grandest stage of them all. Right now, 2 minutes into the game,
as is the theme with 2v2 ARAM, very, very slow starting, warning shots almost between both of these teams. But when we get that first dive, that first blood, that is when the waterworks will begin to flow. The floodgates will open. And soon enough, we will see some very high scoring matches. As you can see, Steph already down to half just from this long range chip damage that Nat and Joe are able to pull off here. And that might potentially work against Seal9, make them less able to dive in with those slightly tankier champions. We'll have to wait and see though. 2.5 minutes, not a lot happening.
No, definitely not. The range that the blue side has here is very advantageous, especially against the Ornn, who has to be in quite close to do anything other than his abilities. It's going to be a really tough one to actually do damage. It's more of just a health block at this point in time. Let the Varus do the chipping and damage and just try and stay alive as much as possible. See Grandma's chili oil on the floor for the side of Seal9 as well, which could help actually with the healing factor for the Ornn.
Definitely, so that could grant them some extra sustain in these fights, which of course will play to their strengths as rather tanky characters, and just give them that extra bit of damage, that extra sustain to do that damage that they may need. And of course, they've been so good in team fights. I think the more strings to their bow, the better, and I think that becomes more of a problem for the opponent, but still very, very subsided gameplay at the moment. We are very much in the middle of the lane. As you see that in the bottom right, we are slap bang in the middle here, with no progression either side here. Some more of Grandma's chili oil being thrown down, but just warning shots between Steph and Newt Silver as we camp under red team's first tower here. Still, as we tick towards 5 minutes gone, we've seen this a few times in this tournament. I think it sort of depends on the compositions that are facing each other at any given time, potentially how comfortable the players are with the champions they've got at their disposal. But we've seen this a few times where it can take many, many minutes for the game to really kick on. You see, we're heading towards the 5-minute mark. It's still 0-0 and no damage done really to any towers, mostly.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's going to be a slow start on the side of Seal9, especially with the range disadvantage that they have. I feel like they really need to go in with ults, as Ornn does, missing the second part of his ult, but getting the health pack. Newt Silver quite low at the moment. They both actually, on the side of Nat and Joe, have point-and-click ultimates.
That could be huge.
Especially, yeah, so if they combine them together, as Ornn actually goes in there, and he might get the first pick. No, Cloudy does.
So Cloudy as Varus gets the first pick there on Newt Silver to make it 1-0. So again, showing that team fight capability, gets in range to take advantage of the slightly lower defenses of the champs on the side of Newt Silver and Slim KZ. Of course, Newt Silver now free to start purchasing augments, as she has now been eliminated, has now respawned, and has purchased the Collector as Caitlyn there. So we'll see if that will be of any assistance later on. But Newt Silver now obviously back to full health. Slim Casey just swinging around the tower on very, very low health. Definitely a very, very slow subsided start to this particular game.
Yeah, so as we see, the whimsy level, he's just having fun.
He's cranking the whimsy up from 10. 10 out of 10, I'll say I'm cranking up to 11.
Honestly,
here.
yeah.
Just swinging around the tower with not a care in the world. Now has dismounted said tower and has almost been taken out there by Steph. Is down to about 20% of his max HP there. Is Slim KZ. Steph now down to half. Channeling, though, is Cloudy, and a long-range snipe there by Cloudy is going to grant him and Seal9 a second kill of the game. And that is now 2-0 to Seal9. It's much the same story in match one and from many, many games previous involving Seal9. They take the lead early in these team fights, but now shut down by Newt Silver is Cloudy. That will grant some big econ, getting that shut down for blue team there. As you see, the gold is roughly equal now, despite
Seal9 holding a 2-1 lead on the kill board. So that's going to be huge, potentially, for Newt Silver and Slim KZ.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, as we can see, Akshan ulting, actually, but Steph blocking it with the tower as they manage to take it.
They take out that first turret, and that is a lot of gold for blue team. They now have a 500 almost gold difference in their favor as they now potentially start to push the second turret here. They're both on full health here. Steph down to half. They do start to do a little bit of chip damage. They do have minions there to assist with trying to take down that second tower here. And Steph and Cloudy may well be looking in their mirrors somewhat at potentially an underdog story here that they do not want to be on the wrong end of here. And I think Slim Casey might just be feeling a little bit of confidence here. Might not want to misconstrue that as over-arrogance here, overconfidence. You don't want their hubris to be their downfall here, but I think Slim Casey is feeling quite comfortable in this game. Nat and Joe may know something that neither we nor Seal9 know with regards to how this may well play out. Of course, it is 1-0 on the turrets to Nat and Joe, and they're looking to make it 2-0. They are not buggering away from this second turret, but Cloudy and Steph are holding firm for now.
Yeah, Steph just getting the brunt of most of the damage here. Kazi being able to kill the minions on the turret whilst also basically being untargetable because he's going around so fast at this point. As Ornn snowballs onto the Caitlyn, not really doing anything afterwards though, disengaging pretty much instantly.
Only does a third of that Caitlyn's max HP as well, as really to no avail. They've not made any advancements into blue territory, and they haven't really got Newt Silver or Slim Casey to go away either. They are still holding firm there on the borders of that second red turret, just becoming more and more of a nuisance as they now let that second minion wave come in. That will just do slight bits more of damage. Slim Casey now dismounts the ruins of that first turret, trying to get some extra damage to take out that wave of minions, which I believe they will do so. But Steph and Cloudy are using this as an opportunity to try and get close. But Slim Casey, again, back on the swing there, making himself completely unhittable there, swinging so fast there. As now
the Ornn comes in, and Newt Silver, goes down to Cloudy.
It definitely looked like an ult, but I couldn't have told you
yeah.
whose ult that was. But Slim Casey does get the pick on Steph. Cloudy responds in kind with the double kill. That is going to be big for Seal9, though, to relieve some pressure there, as Newt Silver and Slim Casey were really causing them some trouble.
Yeah, they were just pressing the wave so hard there. This would be an opportunity for Cloudy to potentially get this turret. But it was a combination from the Ornn ult and the Varus ult that led to Newt Silver's demise in the end there.
Definitely. Eventually getting rid of some of the ant on their shoulder, as it were, that nuisance that blue team were sort of providing there to red team there. Eventually that has managed to subside. It's now 1-1 there as the first turret has been taken down on Nat and Joe's side, so that does even the playing field somewhat. Seal9 do have that advantage with regards to the kills. It's currently 4-2 to Seal9, but now we are deep again in red territory. We're right by the second turret and, crucially, the inhibitor here, which as we've seen is a big turning point in these games here. Whoever takes out their opponent's inhibitor first tends to be the one that can kick on and get the victory. Slim Casey, again, straight back to the same thing as before, just making himself as hard a target to hit as possible, and it's proving worthwhile here. Barely any damage done. Meanwhile, half of that turret's HP has been depleted here. Another Ornn ult here. Will that come off? It will not. Airborne, though, is Newt Silver, but does get CC to try and relieve some of the pressure.
The fireworks
but now
coming from Slim Casey as well as he engages there. He might be able to 2v1 this as the Ornn is about to go down. Channeling is Cloudy, misses.
But does revive Newt Silver, which does make it a 2v1 against Cloudy, which may force a retreat here.
Yeah, the Akshan passive coming in after a certain time. If you killed the enemy that's killed your teammate, you can revive your teammate instantly.
And that has proven to be very, very profitable there for blue team here, as Newt Silver now immediately back in the fight at no cost here. 5-3 to Seal9, and Newt Silver on a full bar of HP is able to focus that turret, and Cloudy does shut down Cloudy as well. That's going to be a huge oodle of gold as well, and rewards there for Nat and Joe. Steph, though, coming in to defend the turret in the nick of time, but is now getting 2v1'd here. More fireworks going off here from Slim KZ, and it is now 2-1 to Nat and Joe, as they are starting to take the front foot in this game massively. They now start to deplete the inhibitor. Steph helpless here. It's still going to be 10 seconds before Cloudy respawns, and that inhibitor does go down, courtesy of Newt Silver, as Caitlyn, they'll start to target those first turrets, but Cloudy is now back in the fray.
Yeah, the action out coming off there, just being hindered by the turret on, as Slim Kazi doing his specialty, swinging around the pole.
Slim Casey becoming definitely the unhittable target here, using the ruins of the turrets that they've destroyed as a swing there. Slim Casey does, on 1 HP, manage to take down Steph as on Cloudy, though, responds in kind. Newt Silver, though, does get the pick. It is now 6-6 apiece here. Of course, the big difference maker being the turrets being taken down here. Newt Silver managing to be out of range of the turrets. They may be able to take one, if not both, down. First turret is down for blue team here. Can Steph or Cloudy come back in time? Could Newt Silver and Slim Casey be booking a ticket to the final? Steph will be respawning 3-2-1 now, but is it too little too late? Nat and Joe, with just a slither of health left on the Nexus, will book their ticket to the final, and Newt Silver will be looking to become a 2-time champion. The underdog story continues. Something of a shock to see Seal9 eliminated in just the semi-finals in a 2-0 sweep by Nat and Joe. What a series that was.
That was very unexpected, I have to say. Going into this, Seal9 being the favourites basically throughout the whole competition to win it. And then Nat and Joe, who almost didn't qualify for this semi-finals bracket, managing to beat them is crazy.
They were on the outside looking in the league phase during week 6. They had to beat Yaoi Alex Recovering, who, as you see, sit second place in the league phase. And they did just that. They scraped through. And they're now here, and they will now be in the finals. They've eliminated the favorites, the highest ranked player in the entire tournament, as well as a very skilled team fighter in Cloudy. Very new to the game, as we know, but very, very, very skilled as well. And now I think Grompies and Yaoi Alex, obviously they're going to want to get through to the final, but I think they might be a little bit worried by what they've seen today if they're watching, because I think many people are probably expecting a Seal9 victory here, but Nat and Joe have really, really put a statement out there to put that sort of performance in and book their ticket to the finals so authoritatively like that.
Yeah, definitely. I think they were a completely different team to what we saw in the group stage. Definitely, they, in the first game as well, coming from behind a very steep mountain to climb, just focusing on winning. I think that's the difference, is the mentality that they've had coming into this week. It's definitely been stronger, because I reckon they would have, in the first game, if that was back in the group stages, they would have given up in a sense mentally, but I think they persevered today, and that's what's gotten them the victory.
Definitely a big difference maker here. They persevered. They didn't capitulate. They kept their head in it, and even when the mountain seemed oh so tall, they were 9-1 down at one point in match 1, and they came back despite losing on the kill score. That didn't matter. They took that first game, and then they just stood on their own 2 feet in the second game. They were not intimidated at all by the occasion, by the pressure, by their opponents, the stature of who they were going up against, and they ended up taking it to them. I think Seal9 were shocked a little bit seeing the result of that first match, and I don't think they were ever quite able to quite rewire themselves in the way they needed to get that victory, to put them back on level terms.
And ultimately, it's going to be Nat and Joe through to the final, and Seal9, unfortunately, on the wrong end of a shock elimination. And I think that's going to make the rest of this tournament all the more interesting. Week 8, of course, will be Grompies versus Yowie Addicts in a best of 3, and then a best of 5, a real test of endurance, of metal, in Week 9 between whoever has the displeasure, it would seem, of taking on Nat and Joe as they look for a second straight Hive Esports title. Of course, that will be decided next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time here on twitch.tv/Hive Esports Games. But for now, that will be all we have time for here. There are socials down below: YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter, where you can keep up with all things Hive Esports and catch up with all the exhilarating action that you have seen over the past 7 weeks and throughout the rest of this League of Legends tournament. But for now, from myself, Will, from Lewis, and from the production team here at Hive Esports, thank you very much for watching. Have a very safe evening. Thank you, and goodbye.
Has respawned, and he is still vulnerable here. I think trying to stick.
This is
The horse is decayed.
This is on delay as well. It's like they knew. Brand Hogs taking up Cloudy there, gonna lots of.
A double. Will not even respawn in time. Steph may well be forced to retreat now that Pastel Lover has respawned, and he is still vulnerable.